Hello guys and welcome to another Boost Knowledge video, and I have to say I'm very happy we're doing history again. Okay, so what time are we going to do? Let's talk about Tudor times. So if you've forgotten who the Tudors were, there's actually a video we did called the Wars of the Roses, and yes, it's above now. Do check out it above in the description, please, if you don't know what they are. So, in the Wars of the Roses, the Lancasters and Yorks fight each other, and both die, kind of, and then the Tudors win. And the first Tudor king was King Henry VII. Why the 7th? Because he was the 7th king, called Henry. And then he had two sons, Arthur and Henry VIII. And so he was like, well, who should be the next king? And then he appointed Henry VIII as king. Wait a sec, no. He appointed Arthur as the king, because Arthur was actually the eldest son, and Henry was kind of like the spare. So Arthur became the king. And he was like, let's go. Henry VII gave him a wife, which was Princess Catherine of Aragon in Spain. Princess of Spain. He did this to actually make the relationships between England and Spain better. And oh no, Arthur dies. King Henry VIII is now king. So, what did he do? Did he reign England well? If you know King Henry VIII, I mean, if you probably even actually heard of him, or maybe in your history lessons. And maybe even judging at this picture here. Oh my goodness, big, flat bloke. But you can't say that, because King Henry actually only became overweight when he was about 45 years old. Or you might say, he had 6 wives and killed all of them. That was bad. Actually, he did have 6 wives, but he only killed 2 of them. And finally, you might say, he was a very bad ruler who annexed power from the church. He actually did do that. But why? What were his motives? What should we think of him? So before we start this video, let's talk about the time Henry was ruling. 1509 or early 16th century, Tudor times. And let's talk about some different factors. Firstly, the English territory. First, so they controlled the entirety of England, not Great Britain, nor the UK, England now. They also had territory of parts of Ireland and the eastern part of Wales. But they didn't get anything from the Scots because the Scots are powerful and they keep fighting each other. They also had Calais, a piece of French land. So that was actually pretty much enough territory for the British. And let's talk about, and they were also quite friendly with other countries, like countries in mainland Europe. France, although they did have a war with France, the 100 Years' War, and Spain, because of marriage with Catherine of Aragon. However, in other parts of Great Britain, or the UK and Ireland, at that time, they and the Scots weren't that friendly. The Scots hated them because they kept invading Scotland and they kept fighting. The Wales didn't like them because they had conquered most of eastern Wales, and the Irish had a long-lasting tension with them because they had stripped off half of Irish land. So, well, okay. What about education and innovation, those who concern us young people the most? At that time, it was actually not that much Dark Ages, the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages. Actually, it was not quite dark. There was new books printed. There was the printing press was invented. There was a Renaissance, and universities were actually open, Cambridge and Oxford, although they were only reserved for those very rich or very smart. The religion there was nearly all Christian. The thing was, you couldn't believe another religion. And also, the Pope was the head of the church, and the church believed that the church was Catholic. There was also a relation with the king, parliament, and church. So the king was actually not that all-powerful. If he wanted to make taxes and laws, he had to consult parliament. And if there was something like marriages, a divorce, or crimes, he probably had to consult the church, who acted sort of like a judge. Transportation then was mostly by walking, although horseback and carriages were reserved for the rich. The known world then was mostly Europe, the west coast of Africa, the east coast of North and South America, India and China. And they used currency as the British pound, but they also had some sub-currencies, like shillings and pence. 12 pence was 1 shilling, and 20 shillings was a pound. Just to give you some basic idea, a worker got about 1 shilling a day, and a piece of bread cost about half a pence per loaf. So a worker could get 24 pieces of bread for he and his family in 1 day, which was pretty much what he needed to get going, maybe even a little bit little. Forms of work at that time, tin, iron, and lead mining was very common, and there was also huge amounts of cross building, using mostly the wool of sheep. Not only did they eat the sheep, but they also used the sheep's wool. To be honest, there were about 2 million British people there, and 8 million sheep in Britain at that time. So now let's talk about King Henry VIII. So King Henry VII just passed away. His brother Arthur has also passed away. He's now in charge of the country. And as I said, the country was pretty good. Pretty wealthy, actually. And King Henry VIII actually did have a lot of public support at that time. He was a sportsman. He liked writing, music, and poetry. He spoke 4 languages. He jousted, hunted, and even played the recorder. He was very sporty. He was a good sport, I mean. And people did like him. And they supported him as king. He also had a very good relation with the church. Actually, extraordinary good relation with the church. He was also deeply Catholic and wrote a book for the church, praising Catholicism. The Pope liked him too, and he got the title Fidei Defensens, or Defender of Faith. FD in short. If you look at British coins, you can also see FD at the back of the coins. I mean, at the head of the coins. He also had, his wife was obviously Catherine of Aragon in Spain, his brother's wife. And they married to maintain a good relationship with Spain, which was what they actually did in all around the world. To marry and to maintain a good relationship, they marry. He also loved Catherine, and they had a happy marriage for 20 years. Catherine even helped him rule when he was in Calais. However, Henry did have some problems. He was a very big spender, like gambling every day and betting on anything he could, and spent about £1,000, gained or lost £1,000 per day, according to today's money. Also, he desperately wanted a son, but unfortunately for him, Catherine couldn't. Catherine only gave him a daughter, Mary, and to be fair, Catherine did birth him sons. It was only that the other sons died. It was common at that time. A woman's children would mostly die, and only a few lucky ones could reach the age of 10 or 12, the age of puberty. So yes, at least Henry had a daughter, Mary. Mary? Bloody Mary? Yes. And Henry was actually quite angry about this. Like, why can't you just give me a son? So he wanted a divorce. So he asked the Pope, because he couldn't divorce himself, that would be illegal and against God, sort of. So he asked the Pope. Pope was like, "Oh no, you can't. I'm not going to allow that. You shall not pass." And he even got excommunicated, which means that he could not worship or go to church, and his sins would not get forgiven, meaning he couldn't go to heaven once he died. And Henry was like, "What? Okay, so you don't let me divorce, and you excommunicated me. You know what? You are fired." So Henry made himself the head of the church, and, kicked away the Pope. And Henry was like, I'm the head of the church now. I'm divorcing Catherine. Okay, so his first wife got divorced. And now Henry's the head of the church, so what did he do? Oh, he didn't do much. No, he did do something, actually. Firstly, some people did rebel against Henry's behavior. They were like, "No, you can't just make yourself the Pope. That's a bit unfair." And most of them were monks and religious people. Henry killed some of them, imprisoned some of them, and closed their churches. And he got all the money out of that churches for himself, so he could get so it would fit onto his huge spending. Unfortunately, no, he spent more, and the country's economy was actually going in decline. But Henry did do something good, though. He forced the translation of the Bible from Latin to English, and made church readings in English, so more people actually could understand. However, he did kill a lot of people who didn't support this. So, the first wife got divorced. What about getting a second? So he married Anne Boleyn, who was smart and clever, and also very fashionable. But, sadly, fate seems to have its own thoughts, and she couldn't get him a son either. Still got him a daughter, Elizabeth. Wait, Queen Elizabeth I? Yup. But Henry was getting fed up with Anne Boleyn, and was like, "This is no good. Just give me a son. Sorry, I can't. I can't decide this." "Fine then, you are dead." So he falsely claimed that Anne had committed adultery, which means having an affair or being in love with another man, and killed her. "Oh no, dude, uncle, what about your next wife?" "Yes, Jane Seymour, which is actually right here in the picture here. Yes, she was the third wife of Henry." "Wait a sec, what's it on the right?" "A son." Yes, Henry had a son. So fortunately for him, Jane did give him a son, Edward the 7th. Yes, good. And then Henry lives with Jane happily ever after. He has an heir. He rules the country properly, and everything turns out great. But no, Jane dies 3 days after birthing Henry. Oh. So Henry got a fourth wife, Anne of Cleves, who was actually from mainland Europe, probably Germany, nowadays Germany. He was described as unfashionable and couldn't even understand some of Henry's card games. Henry once saw a portrait of her and was like, "Cool, bro, let me marry her." Then actually saw her, said, bro's fat, and then divorced her. Then he married Catherine Howard, but she didn't actually like Henry at all. She thought that Henry was fat. And also, Catherine did actually have an affair. She loved more men and actually had lots of boyfriends before marrying Henry. Henry was like, "I'm cool, bro," and killed her. So, first 5 wives, divorced, killed, died, divorced, killed, the next one died? No. What about lived? The last wife, Catherine Parr, did survive, because Henry VIII passed away at the age of 56, and he had 3 options on his deathbed to make who the next ruler. Mary, who was 30 years old. Elizabeth, who was 13 years old. And, of course, the probably inexperienced Henry was only 9 years old, probably an average year 5. Obviously Edward dies. So Edward VII was made the next ruler. And, well, that's that. So, how did Edward VII rule? Being inexperienced and only of an age of 9, could he bring good changes to the country? What happened to him? If Bloody Mary and Queen Elizabeth I were already born at that time, how long was his reign? Well, you can find out in the next video. It's coming anytime soon. And yes, check out the next video. So, back to King Henry VIII. Many people first studying this might have first impressions. He's fat. He had 6 wives. He killed most of them. He fired the Pope. But what actually we should learn in history is to have an unbiased view. Yes, he did do some bad acts. He did excommunicate. He did kill. He did fire the Pope. He did have 6 wives. He did kill 2 of them, and he was actually fat. He was fat. But when you look at the bad things, you also have to look at the good things. For example, he was originally good. He was a very good sport when he was young. He did love Catherine of Aragon for a while. He still ruled stably, having a reign of about 38 years. And most importantly, he translated the Bible into English. So I hope you actually did enjoy this video. Please give us a like and subscribe if you can. We want to get to 100, and I thank everybody who has subscribed until now. Thank you so much for your support. Okay then, the next video is coming. Do check it out, follow up, and we'll see you next time.